Welcome to the Comment Period, the podcast where we discuss regulatory and compliance developments that have made federal health policy less predictable than the contents of a peptide syringe purchased through Instagram. We are your hosts. I'm Mark Gardner.
I'm Amanda Johnston.
And I'm Nate Downing.
In this episode, we discuss FDA and transition, shifting enforcement priorities, AI, WHOOP, peptides, and what all of it means for companies trying to make decisions while the rules are still moving. The comment period is now open. We hope you enjoyed the episode.
So Nate, what are your thoughts on how things are going?
You know,
With what?
with
With what?
The
life and
FDA, the
I'm a
government,
little bit
you
of
know,
pain right
this
now, so if it's
office?
personal, I've got issues.
like professional wise,
Yeah,
the
you know,
government, FDA,
the government exists.
is accurate.
It is still there. It just exists in a different form right now. Um, right. If you look at the FDA, what you see is kind of emblematic and embodiment of some of the campaigning that was going on of less government, maybe a distrust of science at times, right? You've
Yeah.
seen that, and that kind of comes through how the FDA has been managed from the top. Now, I think a lot of the day to day at the FDA, you won't have seen a change. I think reviewers would try to say that. However, you'll see they're a little bit more tired, they're stretched thin. And I think that also kind of shows through on the day to day, but that's not really what you're going to see right now is we want to step back and talk about things that show policy changes, things like peptides, thing like direct to consumer advertising, which is a staple in healthcare in the US. And I think it's a staple because we're a very litigious society. And so if a patient can show up to the office and say, "Hey, doc, I heard about this. Let me try it." If it doesn't work, that doc can say, "Hey, you consent, like you chose to do this." So I also think direct to consumer advertising plays a role in society. So to see it be challenged so much, is kind of one way to unite people who may be on the right and the left in the medical device and the pharma space to say, hey, we both need a First Amendment right and we need the right to be able to adequately uh, educate the consumer on our products. So that's going to be something interesting to see how people take whatever ultimate rulemaking the FDA decides to pursue on something like inadequate provision, which I know we'll touch on later. So, the FDA is in a bit of a unique state right now.
If it even gets to them,
If it gets to them,
because
yeah.
it's going to be tied up in the courts.
Yeah, we could.
I mean, I don't see how this could possibly go through. Yeah,
Yeah.
there's too much money at stake. Like you have multi-billion-dollar industry
Yeah.
in drug advertising, and it obviously works.
With friends on both sides of the aisle.
Yeah, 100% getting contributions
Yeah.
to their campaigns.
Yeah.
They're not. It's not going away, and the First Amendment won't allow it anyways because it's commercial speech doctrine. Yeah.
Yeah. So
Companies have a
FDA,
right.
they
Free
haven't
speech.
proposed a rule yet. I think they've just published their intent and
Published their
they're aiming
intent.
for like December 2026. So then we'll see the proposed rule and then everybody will have an opportunity to comment.
File some
Mhm.
lawsuits.
Start writing your comments.
Some lawsuits.
Yeah, lawsuits. But I think even based on what FDA has said, like they are setting up their First Amendment kind of defense, which is interesting. But yeah.
Do you think there's any way this will be real? Like, do you think if you had to go on Kalshi, we should try and get a prop bet going. Maybe we
Yeah,
could
there you go.
be a new line at Gardner Law,
Yeah.
prop betting.
Mhm.
What do you, if you are forced to mortgage your home and bet on this prop bet and the prop bet is whether or not this rule has life, if it will come to fruition. What do you think?
Yeah, I don't think
Binary
so.
choice.
I call this enforcement life. What I think the FDA is doing is from a leadership standpoint, they're doing all these different attacks on DTC that signal
Mm.
and make people a little bit more nervous. And so they get some action, they get some activity, but you know, the years that'll take to go through with this, I mean, you could have a new administration by then.
Yeah.
I mean, so, and then
Americans hate drug ads, though.
Yeah, they
Yeah,
do,
they do.
but they pay for the Super Bowl. So,
Yeah.
the Americans love the
Good point.
Super Bowl. So, we can't have one without the other.
Right. I know. I was reading about this, picturing like now instead of drug ads, a minute 30 seconds. There'll be like a mini series. Walk you through the whole
Right.
PI, like go from scene to scene.
So have like a
After-school
drama around the
Yeah.
drug.
Yeah.
I took this drug, got better, but these 85 side effects occurred.
Yeah, and then it walks through like weighing the risks and benefits.
Yeah, Madison Avenue
I
is
mean,
very clever. They'll
might
figure out a way
cost
to
$100 million
advertise.
or
Yeah,
no,
no, that's a good point. I mean, they're gonna find out a way.
yeah,
Like if marketers are anything, they're creative. They'll
Yeah.
figure out a way around this issue.
right.
Yeah.
We'll see what the proposed rule says. I mean, they might not go so far as to just like maybe it'll be like here are the things that you need to have instead of
Okay.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I
So
mean, maybe the
Nate,
comments will influence that as well.
so you're viewing Amanda more as like it might impact policy with some new requirements, and
Right.
Nate, you're saying it's more of a flex, like
I mean, I think it's
a
both.
signal.
Yeah.
Well, I think when you look at
Right
the
now.
last September, the letters from HHS Secretary and the White House, that was a flex as well, right? That
Yeah.
was
Yeah.
already attacking adequate provision without anything occurring, right? So that's adequate provision was still there, but they were saying it's improper. We need full risks. And so that's the same thing of they can say what they want in that stats. I mean, those letters, I don't know
No, you're
what
right.
force they have, but you can use it and say, hey, look, the FDA does care about this right now. So if you're out there putting a social media post to consumers and you think you're going to do some brief ISI, meaning
Right.
a shortened ISI, and you're a drug, that might not be the time to do it,
Right.
And
I know, and that's what I was thinking. I rarely watch TV, but when I do, it's channels that have these crazy drug ads. I was thinking I'm
you watch a
more
lot of
afraid about-
QVC at home and stuff.
Yeah, forensic
Home
files.
shopping. Nice.
But like social media, I feel like is going to be next.
Yeah.
I mean, I feel like that's much more
You
pervasive.
could take
and
TV and
I know.
most people wouldn't. I mean,
That's kind of where or
Yeah.
radio.
So what are you
ads.
saying you think?
I'm worried that they might start to go after social media.
Well,
Just-
kind of are already
Yeah,
aren't they?
well,
Or you think
Yeah.
it'll be
they
more?
haven't really
could be
cracked
more.
down.
They don't.
Not
They
in
don't
the
talk
space.
about as
Okay.
much. It's really like they'll start with some high level issue on social media, like misrepresentation of an indication, misrepresentation of the clinical evidence.
Okay.
Then they'll throw in some type about risk, like it was at the end of the video and it shouldn't have been. But I've never seen a letter that's solely based on you didn't have proper risk presentation in social media posts. Maybe I missed
Oh, there's
one.
the Kardashian.
Yeah.
But those are
And the
you didn't
Chloe.
disclose your
Influencer.
affiliation
Influencer.
too.
I think
Yeah.
maybe with Kim's morning sickness, I have to go back and look. But you're right. Yeah, like how they could send a lot more warning letters.
I know.
there.
That's what I'm. Yeah.
And they love
That's kinda
sending
where
warning
my
letters
mind
now.
went.
Yeah.
So maybe
Yeah. Yeah, especially to
Untitled
So-
warning, they just type them up, change the address, and
Yep.
send it out.
going back to something you said, Nate, like the administration is like no other administration that we've seen for like as long as I've been alive. The government's been kind of this steady creature, and now it's obviously been very different under Trump. I guess like with the DTC ads, a lot of people don't like them.
No,
Like,
yeah.
so are they basically making good on their threat, right? Like, are they attempting to? So it's interesting, like with this administration, also they'll do things like fire the commissioner for not approving things. What was it? Nicotine,
tobacco.
flavored
Flavored
tobacco,
vapes,
which
yeah.
I think if you polled most Americans, most people probably think it's a good idea for little kids not to get
Right.
hooked on nicotine and try and entice them with things that taste good.
Yeah.
Because nicotine, there's remember the ads from the 50s where the doctor would be like, I recommend Lucky Strike.
Oh yeah, yeah.
I don't think there's any health benefit to nicotine,
Not that
right?
much.
I
Like,
mean, I've seen
makes you
some
more
people
alert.
make claims.
yeah, or maybe it suppresses
There's some
appetite.
social media claims on that.
So yeah, I mean, but at the end of the day, this administration will kind of pick something, and it's either wildly popular or unpopular. There's not a lot of middle ground with some of the FDA topics, at least for in our realm. I'm not
Right,
speaking
yeah.
of everything
Yep.
in that's done by this administration, but is there anything, I'm kind of curveballing you guys, was there anything you've seen that you've liked that the administration has done? I'm putting you on the spot.
So
yeah.
they've rolled out some pilot programs that I think
Yeah,
are
that's a good point.
good at intent. I don't know the execution yet. There's one that I don't think is talked about very much that I think can be very meaningful. It's basically like clarification in the meeting minutes. You get
Oh, yeah.
one additional item of clarification that you can have after meeting in the meeting minutes, essentially. I've
Could
tried.
be very helpful.
Could be helpful. I've tried to refer to it to the FDA, and I don't really know what they even think it
They're
means.
like, what are you talking about?
But that can save you an entire pre-submission and say, hey, I know we didn't discuss this. However, this brought up this issue. This is a solo issue. Can you just answer for this within the meeting? If you have that happen, that's 3 months maybe of time saved. I think that's
Do
innovative.
you think that'll stay? Like, was that a Macquarie?
Yeah. Well, I mean, during his
Might not.
time, I don't know how much he was involved with that. I know the NPV, the priority voucher, was more Macquarie, but
Yeah.
It'd be interesting to get someone on the podcast that's from the FDA that recently left or could kind of
Yeah.
give us an internal look on how some of I wonder if some things are at the agency right now are listened to and where in the past are like, we don't do it that way. We've, this agency's been around. This law, this Food, Drug, and Cosmetic Act's been around for over 100 years. We don't, sorry, but actually it's 1938. So 1906 Pure Food and Drug Act, but it's been around for a long time, right? Like maybe some of the changes the disruption that's occurring will help in certain ways, hurts in other ways.
Yeah.
But I wonder if some of these things will stick around even with the commissioner.
Yeah, or like
departing.
rapid. I'm curious to see how that goes.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think if it was in the works, it's more likely to stick around. From what I saw from the National Priority Voucher, it wasn't as accessible to all, right? And even when I was looking at it, I think I had a client asking me about it, and I was like, well, I can't tell if you would actually get it. I don't really know what is the bar to get in. Is it an automatic in? And some of the behind the scenes stuff that came out was maybe leadership was choosing who got to avail themselves of that. So that's hard to have a good strategy based on that, because how do we'll make sure you're the right people.
Right. And that's months and years, potentially millions of dollars.
Yes. And so that's, that program maybe wouldn't stick around because maybe it was kind of a, hey, we know some people. But, some of the other ideas are about innovation, digital health tools, keeping people at home instead of the hospital, understanding the rural shortcomings in healthcare right now, which also might be caused by the current government, or at least hastened by the fact that there's less money for these rural hospitals to stay open. And so, at least they're trying to account for that by saying, hey, what can we do to reduce readmissions, rehospitalizations, all those things. I think those are well-intended, well-meaning programs. Like anything else, it's execution. Even Breakthrough, right? Breakthrough's been around for a long time. It's a small percentage of devices that get into Breakthrough that actually get to market. So while you get more conversations with FDA, it doesn't mean they're actually saying, hey, do this, this, and this, you're on, right? It's just you ask the same question and you just get a quicker answer, but sometimes you're stuck in the same loop for biocompatibility, for example, a hot topic at FDA. So there's issues that they have to address. They need to address the human power it takes to run all these things.
Yeah.
And, AI is not always the answer. And I think I've seen some things where AI is clearly not helped from the FDA standpoint and made things worse. So,
and I'd love to talk more about ELSA.
Yeah.
And how that's being deployed.
I haven't heard a ton about that lately.
Yeah, I have talked to someone who said it was deployed at their site by FDA, and it was really interesting. It actually was pretty effective, they said, but this company, which will go unnamed, had their own tool, which will also go unnamed, but it's I really wish I could say it, because it's kind of
off the record,
a nod to the name ELSA, but
okay.
But their tool is also effective at responding. But FDA is essentially going through and using AI to find issues.
Yeah.
And it's interesting. I'm trying to remember. I think it was in our Stillwater meeting here a few months ago. One of the panelists, it was our meeting out in Palo Alto last fall. But the panelists said something that I thought was kind of prescient. They talked about, you're going to get too much information. You're going to learn of too many violations if you're FDA.
Right. Yeah.
So what do you do when you learn that your compliance program or like your Salesforce is wildly out of compliance because and this sounds kind of draconian, but like your AI system is reading every email that goes out from every employee.
And you have all
And
these
you have
flags and...
you have thousands or
Yeah, you gotta have
maybe if you're like
filtering on it, and then
Johnson & Johnson, you have hundreds of I don't know
Yeah.
how many employees they have, but now you're like, okay, we have too many problems to solve.
Right.
It's kind of like if the police were like, the speed limit's 55 on I-94, and if you go over that, you are in violation. We're going to
That'd be a
ticket
lot of-
you. It's like, well, they can't because everybody's going over
Right.
55. Like, you know, but anyways, it's
So those companies are using it to detect noncompliance internally?
yes. Well, they're like using it also to respond to ELSA. It's
Oh,
like
okay.
a counter weapon.
So
which,
like if they get a deficiency, they'll like that kind of a thing?
yes, they're like try and even predict it. Like, and then
Yeah.
how are they going to respond? I don't know all the inner workings on it. They had
Interesting.
a pretty short conversations, but it was, it's kind of like, are we living in Star Wars where we're going to just have
robots versus robots?
robots versus who can make more robots? They win.
What I've seen with AI a little bit is that it can also jade the reviewer. So I've helped the company with an issue that was brought up. It seemed like it was flagged by AI. I think it was inaccurate, but it was flagged, and that was enough to kind of keep going down the path of having to
Rabbit
address
hole.
it.
And then what are they missing, right? Because
Yeah.
they're not focusing on something that really is.
Yeah.
In that case, it was a big issue, or I'm kind of
Nah, man,
deducing
I
it
would
wasn't.
think it was not an issue
So
at all.
then maybe they're like missing the big
something
thing.
else.
And
I know.
we see that with clients now where it's great to have AI and clients come to us and say, well, here's what and you can read, when you get the email, you just know AI wrote it, right?
Yeah.
And they're like, need you to analyze these 10 issues. And then like the last 4 are like, why are you worried about that? Like, or why are you asking me to do that? I'm not in securities law or whatever it may be. Right. Like,
Yeah, and it's notorious. It will like hone in on weird
random
specific
things.
and
Yeah.
it'll flag things that I'm like, wait, ignore that. Like that's not the issue.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, and I'm sure unless they have some super and the bias in the FDA ELSA as well, I'm curious how they have validated and
Is it
tried to
I
mitigate.
wonder if they're keeping everything confidential. I don't know.
I'm-
Like, you know, there's trade secrets. What if they're at issue? Things like that.
Oh, lots of trade secrets.
You know, the law is a laggard to this technology for sure.
Yeah.
So we'll see all this stuff come. But yeah, it's kind of to go back to this theme of like the administration kind of moving fast and breaking things in some cases. I mean, I think there are times where it's like, okay, that was good. And there's times where it's like, well, that was really bad. I mean, like, I'm not an expert on the colorants and the added thing. Like David, if he were here, he could talk more about that. But I thought that was maybe good that we don't have all these dyes in
I
our
think the
food.
food dye
Like there, a
stuff is
lot of them
good.
are banned in Europe. Why do we have them? But then I look at like our commissioner getting fired because he didn't put flavored stuff in nicotine, you know, what a vape pens. It's like, well, that's really kind of stupid in my view to throw the baby out with the bathwater. I think he was pretty popular as a commissioner. And on the other hand, I'm not sure that adequate provision, just ripping that out root and stock is a good idea. But I think that's really more RFK.
Yeah.
But yeah, that I am concerned for our clients, and we commented about this on the NTAP just being pulled by CMS and that breakthrough designation tandem with the NTAP going away. And what do you guys have any comments on that?
Yeah, I mean,
Amanda needs a lot.
I know.
Yeah. You know, it's just it's interesting because there's more programs to replace it. There's other things that CMS and FDA are working on. They're trying to propose other things. So it's interesting. What is it about this one that you specifically want to get rid of? So I don't know if it's kind of we want more control, right? This is too broad for maybe CMS as if you get this designation, receive this, and but that's the beauty of being in industry is you get to understand with some certainty that you might have some advantages to take an opportunity for reimbursement essentially. And that's how you get your product adopted and that's how you get to the market. So I think overall, there's a lot of things right now that if you are in industry can be difficult to navigate. And when you're thinking about reviewers who maybe don't have time, who are missing things, I've had multiple rounds and submissions where in my opinion, it's very clear that the reviewers just didn't have time to look at things. And sometimes it's easier to just ask questions, and that saves you time. It stops the clock, right? They're always still up against MDUFA, and they want to make sure they meet their timing obligations. Well, it's hard to meet that if you would have to take 2 more weeks to review something, right? So it's easier to say, "Up, we don't have this.
Yeah.
Here's a denial. Here's another denial." And so, that those timelines throw companies off. There's a lot of money burned per month, when you're in an investigational product. So I think that that's difficult. So, in some ways, we're trying to, really get innovation moving forward. It's really in the digital health context. Does it have all the answers? I mean, that can have some, but things that really go in the body and affect the structure and function of the body still seem to be the most life-saving of measures when it comes down to it. So, there's concerns that have to be addressed, and I don't know that getting rid of NTAP is a way to do some of that, but maybe they'll replace it with something better that also has certainty. However, that takes time, right? So
Yeah.
the other
That's my
thing that
concern.
bothers
Yeah.
me is
Like-
there's a lot of things being rolled out,
Right.
but they're not really going through the process and not really making it clear, hey, here's why you would qualify and here's how you utilize this.
Yeah.
Amanda's experience with Ready, for example, right? Didn't you try, and I try to do the same thing. You have to figure out, hey, did we apply? And then you find out, oh, you have to be in this certain stage to get it, which a lot of products don't need to go through X type of IDE. And so then they wouldn't be able to avail themselves
It's
of it.
like a EFS or something type ID or
It's just an actual IDE to FDA instead of
right. You just wouldn't need an ID because you're just a 510K.
Yeah. That was for rapid tap.
Yep.
I mean, we've worked with some clients lately that we've had, I don't know, 4 different big law firms in this space try to figure out what rapid tap looks like. And there's just not information out there. Nobody knows, which makes it really difficult for companies to plan, years down the road when they have a board, they have investors, they have timelines, they have budgets, and there's uncertainty.
Is there really anyone in charge of it?
Right.
Like, couldn't you even go to someone and then they'd have to create a rule and
right.
rulemaking, right? Maybe even have
this might be a little
assessment.
controversial, but it may be intentional at times, right?
Yeah.
If you think about the current commissioner's stance on healthcare and access to healthcare and what is needed from a healthcare standpoint, it's not really a let's address the sickness. It's, hey, why are you getting sick? You shouldn't be getting sick. You need to be exposed to certain things. And that maybe is playing out through the way big treatments that are maybe geared at addressing a serious issue versus, natural foods. That's probably why the dyes were taken out, right? That kind of fits it, which nothing wrong. Like natural foods are probably better for you and should be pushed and people should have access to those natural foods. But you also sometimes need technology like a defibrillator, where maybe there's a new defibrillator out there and it's not going to get to where you need to go because that company can't foresee what their path looks like right now. And so that may be more effective option, which would keep other people alive who are sick individuals, not healthy individuals. And maybe that reflects a little bit of kind of overall policy of how some people see healthcare at the leadership level.
Like you could be literally, I was at Mayo getting a physical and they were talking to me about my blood work and whatnot and stress tests and all that. And they're like, we had a vegan marathon runner in here, a woman in her 40s who was like the picture of health and she had like really high blood pressure. They're like, it's genetic. A lot often it's not. Like, it doesn't matter what you eat, if you smoke or not, you're going to have high blood pressure. So you're going to ultimately need therapies to help you address that. So, no, it's a great point. Like, it doesn't matter what kind of, what routine you're doing in the morning necessarily. Plus, there's emergent issues. All need healthcare. I just looked up so Kyle Diamantas. This is the acting commissioner. I don't know anything.
He was a hunting friend of Donald Trump Jr., I believe.
That sounds qualified to me. I mean,
he was an attorney.
That's kind of pedigree you want.
I think he had experience litigating around formula, so baby formula, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, he was an attorney. He was at Ropes and Gray.
That's right.
And a hunting partner. Okay, that's interesting. Well, we could talk about Whoop.
Yeah,
thank you, Charlie.
No.
Charlie,
I just hit the button. Whoop! There it is.
Man behind the man behind the what they say in Wizard of Oz?
Oh,
Behind
the
the screen.
curtain.
Thank you.
Curtain.
That's
Man
it.
behind the
I
curtain.
can't remember the
Yeah, that's a good segue into Whoop.
Whoop.
I
There
don't
it
have mine
is.
on. My husband wears
Oh, okay.
mine
Yeah, I
every
got.
day. He loves
It told me I didn't sleep last night very well. I'm like, you lie. You're lying, Whoop. I slept great. Apparently, I didn't go to bed at the right time.
Oh, yes.
It was too
Yep.
early or
I know it
something.
like yells at him, or it'll say, "You were powerlifting" or something when
Yeah,
he's
yeah.
not, or "Good golf round."
It's
So
kind of a creepy friend.
yes, that's
Always
kind of
with you. But Will Ahmed has done. He's a CEO. He's quite a powerful force. I know he was very excited to announce that he and the FDA came to a settlement. I think if I were to depict this without being, obviously we're not Whoop's lawyers and we weren't involved in this case at all, but it seemed to me that both sides conceded a bit and got to a kind of, I think there was a book in law school, like something about, oh, I can't remember the title. Something about yes to maybe. Does you remember it? You remember this thing? Getting to yes.
getting
Is
to
that it?
that.
Something I
don't
can't
know.
remember.
Yeah, I was gonna say it's probably a negotiation.
Yeah. So they apparently, made a deal. Obviously, we know they made a deal. So I kind of feel like, I don't know, what do you guys think? Who won here?
I mean, I think it was definitely a give and take. I just thought it was interesting they posted the closeout letter. They don't often post warning letter closeout letters,
Yeah.
or at least if they do, they're very delayed. So that was just recently. And it was kind of an odd one. I was going to pull it up, but it basically was short and sweet. And it said, sorry, my voice, morning voice.
You got to stop smoking.
Yeah. Flavored cigarettes got
I didn't want to
somebody.
do this on the podcast,
You
but
liked pina colada flavored cigarette.
I just couldn't resist.
You were stoked about the changing commissioner.
Yeah, exactly. I was
Just kidding. Amanda does not smoke.
Flavored nicotine
To
is
be
my
clear.
favorite. I do not smoke. But yeah, it was interesting. Just it was short and sweet, and it was like you made the corrections, and then they cited their updated guidance. So you can tell
What
that
corrections did? So they stopped saying medical grade, but I thought I looked on the website and it said medical
this
grade.
said
Am I
they
off
made
on that?
specific modifications to the feature, including adjustments to the dial boundaries, ensuring the measurements are presented strictly as wellness insights rather than clinical medical classifications. So maybe
Okay.
tweaked a few words.
Yeah.
But
So
at the
yeah, this is a win for the American public, the FDA, or Whoop, or everyone.
I mean, I think it was a win for probably FDA and Whoop, just
Yeah.
because they were able to come to an agreement. I think,
Yeah.
Mark, you've talked before, is like my concern is that kind of so they updated the guidance. They didn't significantly change the guidance, but they
Yeah.
updated it to be more specific, and they have an example that is Whoop,
Okay.
basically.
Yeah, right. In
So
the
that
updated
is
guidance, which I thought was very helpful for industry.
It was. So at least
I
provided
like
a little
that.
bit more clarification. I guess so it's kind of an honor system in that area. So companies should be doing their own validation to support kind of whatever they're showing.
Right.
So it just opens the door a little bit to other Whoop similar products
Talk
that
more about
maybe
that
are
in a
not as
minute.
mature.
Right.
And are not doing that.
I'm very interested in that.
Yeah.
I did just look on online, and the warning letter talks about the word medical grade insights. If I recall right, let me see if I can find it. Quote, medical grade health and performance insights. And if you go to Whoop's website, it still says, well, actually, this is July 15, 2025, the most powerful Whoop ever, medical grade health and performance insights. There it is. So, but I don't see it really anywhere else on their website without doing a thorough search. My point is like, we've all defended many companies on warning letters, consent decrees, things like that. FDA is really quite good at finding the words they don't like on the website, or even in some cases. I remember we had a case we had just resolved, and someone at DOJ come back and said that they had just found another word somewhere on a third party's website. And we made the point that we were not charged that website. But we did go ahead and encourage that distributor to take that down. But point being that they still have maybe a press release up, but maybe they just missed that one. I know this agency also seems to be moving really fast at times when they issue 100 warning letters, for example.
Yeah.
So it kind of looks like some of these claims, to your point, like they pulled them down.
Yeah.
So it's not that Whoop completely got what they wanted, and the FDA, I think they arguably got what they wanted.
I think they probably did. They closed it out. I think it is probably low risk as long as it's not being promoted as a, clinical insight. But really, the warning letter was basically saying that it was not low risk. And then they updated their guidance saying that what exactly Whoop was doing is low risk. So I think Whoop probably won more than FDA.
Oh,
but
for sure. Yes, I agree.
But I mean, granted, I don't think FDA lost in the sense of we have, and the general public has a little bit more insight. I think my worry is you talked about is just other companies
Right.
that are going to come in this space and
Right.
not be as diligent.
And dumb products like
yeah.
crazy
If
on
FDA
us.
had more time, they maybe could have moved this to like a class 1 exam type thing
Yeah.
and say, here's the controls.
That's
Exactly.
As long as
interesting
you can
idea.
prove these things in your
Right.
quality system, go ahead and launch it.
Right.
They didn't have time to do that because that would have taken rulemaking.
Right.
And so to me, this is also like, hey, we'll concede on this one. But there's probably something going behind the scenes.
Oh yeah, the reality is RFK loves this stuff.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah,
Like
I
he
mean, he's
came
talked about
out
wearables.
and said, he's talked a lot.
Yeah.
Everyone
about
should wear
wearables.
one.
Everybody
Everyone
should have one.
one. Yeah. And that was, I think, maybe when he was campaigning for president.
Yeah.
I can't remember,
Yeah.
but it's very clear that
No.
they got access to the
Yep.
the highest levels of probably got access to RFK here to me.
Yeah.
Because I've been in the
guess.
battles with FDA where you're saying, hey, we're doing it right, but you're doing something because you're worried other people will do it wrong. That's unfair.
Yeah,
And that's
very
probably
true.
Whoop's stance is you've got to find the people who are doing it wrong.
Yes.
We're doing it the right way. We've got whatever validation, verification, whatever it might be. Because we all know, like the risk here is if the watch comes back reading low, but they're higher than that,
Yeah.
that there's a stroke that's missed that would have been caught maybe. And so that's probably why FDA originally called it high risk, because what's the risk of misinformation or the wrong reading? It's that you don't have a major a catch on blood pressure. So, that's what's interesting is that low risk language is contradictory from the original letter, but they're trying to find a way to get more digital health on the market,
know.
and this is a way
I
to
think
do it.
this was a resolution for both sides.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's a good resolution. I'm kind of nerding out on this, going onto their website and just trying. There was one instance where the medical grade words were still present, but then when you go to the actual page, they're not there. And there's a lot of disclaimers saying,
Oh yeah,
this feature is for wellness purposes only,
Yeah.
it's not for medical use. ECG is a medically graded feature because that's Whoop's defense is like, hey, we have 510K
right. Yeah.
for ECG, so we are medically we are medical grade for that.
No, I think they are well
So-
positioned for that argument. 'Cause they do probably have everything under their quality system, and they probably have a design history file for all of
Right.
their features.
They have it all right here on this page. They have
Yeah.
a bunch of references on blood pressure insights, women's hormonal insights, irregular heart rhythm notifications, the ECG.
So you can see which products are medical device and which
Right.
aren't. Some are
Yes.
insights matching FDA's language.
Yep.
Some are actual ECG.
This
right?
is it. Yes. So for the blood, exactly. So for the blood pressure insights is not a medical device. It cannot diagnose or manage medical conditions. It does not provide medical advice. Always consult your doctor for health concerns and never delay or modify medical care based on its information. Blood pressure insights is not intended for use if you're pregnant or on a blood pressure medication. So
Oh.
this is where I kind of look at this whole thing, and I like that Will Ahmed is out there kind of pushing for what he thinks is right. I'm also personally, having worked in this industry my entire career in health law, I am concerned about products hurting the American public
Right.
that don't work. So maybe theirs works great, but this it opens the door for others, as you pointed out, Amanda, who are not as scrupulous to come in and potentially you might be getting a Happy Meal now with some sort of Whoop knockoff, right? Like
I bet you could
there'll be
find
a
one
gas
on
station.
Temu.
I don't know if
Just
McDonald's wants you checking your blood pressure after a Happy Meal, but maybe.
And those people come and go, as
Yeah.
we've seen. So that's kind of, for me, the bigger concern. But I do like that as a consumer, you get some more information about your blood pressure.
Yeah.
And
I wonder how many doctors say, well, instead of me ordering a test, if you're wearing a Whoop, just give me your readings for the next week.
yeah, I mean, I'm wearing this thing all the time. So Will Ahmed knows a lot about me, probably
Yes,
more than
He's probably listening right now. He
he's
might
listening
call
It's
right
got a little
now.
chip in it.
But it's good because now I have a log of literally my heart for.
Yeah.
I've been wearing it for
Well, then
over
it
a
would be
year.
remote monitoring. Maybe that'll be their next thing.
I mean, so I think, yeah, it could be the next thing,
Yeah.
right? Remote monitoring. So I think there's a lot of benefits for but I think to me, this is my own view, the characterization that like Whoop just rolled over the FDA. I would defend the FDA to say, I think that all this language, we've gone through this with clients. This was all reviewed and approved by the FDA, I believe. Like
Yeah.
they were like, let's see
They
your
probably
remediation
drafted it
plan.
together.
Yeah. You're,
For sure. There was
relabeling
back and forth in the warning letter.
Yeah.
and knowing they have arguably probably RFK in their corner. Whoever's at the
Right.
FDA
Yeah.
is not, they didn't get everything they wanted.
No, probably not.
But the American public hopefully benefits here. And we don't have to keep going on about this, but I would say one interesting thing here, if I were Whoop, again, if I were Mr. Ahmed, I would have looked at, could I use this as a moat? Could I use this regulatory burden as a moat? Because now what he's done is he's just allowed all of his competitors to make
Yeah, no, that's
devices that
true.
compete with
Yeah.
his, where he could have
Go and get a de novo.
he could
or
have gotten a
something
de
for your
novo, or
entire.
would
Yeah, I don't
gotten
know.
this cleared somehow, 510K de novo, whatever it may be, and now no one can compete. Well, they can compete with them. But they have to go through quite a burn. The only people that have this ECG feature that I believe is Apple and Garmin. I don't know. Maybe there's probably others that I'm
Yeah.
not aware of, but that does create a regulatory moat.
Yeah. But when I was also like startups, and I don't know exactly on Whoop's journey. I mean, at what point they decided, hey, we're going to not be a medical device, right? Maybe it was early on to say, hey, we need to get this out quick because
Yeah.
we need
I'm
that
sure.
money. We need whatever it is. We're going to spend money on the ECG, but not on the blood pressure. Because that's the conversation I have with clients too, is like, well, it'd be really great if we could get this out and then we'll make medical claims and then it'll be a
Yes.
medical device. So you have to make sure,
Step
okay, well,
one.
really,
Yeah.
are you a medical device from the outset, or can you really be a wellness device? And then you make some modifications and then you can try to create that moat. Because the other thing too is when you are a medical device and you are, adding the blood pressure and more things and different product codes, it's a lot more work. It's a lot more work in-house. It's a lot more work on a post-market sense, the changes to the blood pressure.
Discipline and
Good
the-
point.
Get to think about all
Yeah.
those. And so
Yeah.
sometimes it's also just like, hey, we have a great product. People might come to market and try to give that blood pressure. They can't do the ECG. But at the same time, we're already out there selling all over without some of these medical
That's a
device
good point.
restrictions. And so
It's
I'd
almost
rather
like
just go.
you're saying they can accomplish their goals more effectively by not being a medical
Yeah.
device because there's just less red tape
Less red
that they
tape.
have to maintain. By the way, they did raise $575 million in a Series G round. I think that was reported at the end of March. So I mean, this is
Yeah.
this company is going places, and they have $10 billion valuation.
I saw that. Yeah.
So
Wow. Yeah.
it's not
They're-
a small.
You got to get in the hands of a lot of people to do
company.
that.
Yeah.
It's very
You
exciting.
certainly don't want to wait to be it's easy to be non-prescription, so I'm not saying that, but you want to make sure that you aren't seeing as remote monitoring where
I
a
know,
physician's
right.
going to have to prescribe you, right? You want to be insights and ECG that matches this, blood pressure that gives insights, so you can just be off the shelf
Yeah.
as much as possible, and you can reach as many people as you can.
Nate, you have a family of athletes. So do you, Amanda. Are they I won't say their names, protect their identity.
Yes.
Are they using Whoop?
So I've thought about getting my oldest, who's 14, to use Whoop. He's very active in a lot of sports,
Yeah.
and so
Elite.
it would give me some insights into what kind of
Yeah.
rest he needs.
Yeah.
And he's also not the world's best eater because he's still a kid.
Yeah.
And maybe I can get some insights there and say, hey, look, when you eat well, you perform a little better, and some of the tracking and your heart's a little calmer, whatever it might be. So I think
Interesting, yeah.
for him, the 14-year-old, to me, this is the next step of, hey, let's track and where you are. So I've often thought about getting him hooked up to one. He does use a Garmin watch already.
Yeah, I was going to
so
ask what he uses.
he does get some tracking in.
Yeah. My son
Um,
used that as well. I know he liked that.
and so like when he's running, he can track it. And so the Whoop would probably be more interesting to me because also I will say, I do like to bring information to his pediatrician. Like my son
Yeah.
runs a lot or plays a lot of different sports. And so he's really busy. And so I'll say, hey, do you think this is too much? What should we be looking for? And be interesting to get some more insight. So when you're an athlete, I was an athlete moons ago, you know. And to have more insight into your training would be great, right?
Yeah.
Should I be training
The more
today
you
or
know,
not?
yeah, the better.
Am I seeing, blood pressure high or lower after eating one thing or another? Is my heart stressed when I should have, instead of running 5 miles, I should have just chilled out and I would have gotten more benefit?
Yes.
I think the first time I heard of Whoop was from Alex Honnold on a podcast talking about Whoop. And he was saying how he gets training insights. And I was like, that's really
very
cool. I mean,
Yeah.
if you want to be an elite athlete, you need to both train and rest
Yes.
properly. And that's great.
And no,
And
yeah.
Rory's on it,
Yeah.
right?
And if you use it
LeBron.
properly, you're not I could see how you're not a medical device, right? It's not telling you, hey, you're going to have a heart attack, don't run. It's saying, hey, your body looks more stressed than usual. I recommend
Right.
resting. Or, hey, here's your training. And my Garmin does that. Your training readiness today is 80. You should be out running or something,
I hosted at our cabin our kids and their friends, and it was a very fun weekend, and we were comparing Whoops, and because people weren't getting that much sleep.
Yeah.
Who has the lowest sleep score?
People were going for the lowest
Who's
Whoop.
straining the
It was
highest?
funny.
I mean, I'd like to hear.
Like, no, I need to get to work. I have to get off this podcast.
I personally would like to hear more about peptides because I don't know.
yeah.
I don't know much
That's a good
about
topic.
peptides. Like I said, other than I get ads like to make me more tan, and I'm just curious. I just don't know a ton about them.
Yeah, so kind of a hot topic. They're also emblematic of what we've been discussing from a leadership level at HHS on down, right? I want to be careful I say it. Some of these peptides that are being discussed are not exactly proven, right? So there's the sections 503A, 503B. When you're listed in a certain section, it says, hey, we've got enough information to at least make a determination on safety. We're okay with you compounding it. Doctors can prescribe it, but you're not a drug. You can't go out there and go ahead and market all these benefits, right? You haven't really earned that. And so there's some specific peptides. The numbers are all like, New Planet, C15, stuff like that.
Sounds very like top secret agent
Type
style.
stuff.
It's some of them the government has just said, this is a drug. It has to be a drug because of its chemical nature, right? Like I know that was the conclusion we had in one of our assignments.
Yeah, some of them.
Lately. And the word of caution, right, to the people selling these
Or wanting to sell them.
wanting to sell them. You might be selling drugs, because of the chemical entity, the government, the molecule. The government just said that's a drug. Like you can't say it's a supplement or something else.
Even if you don't make drug claims.
Even if you don't make drug claims.
That is a drug. You can't.
It's kind of like you can't take a pacemaker and say, well, this is just
it's
here to
wellness
device. We're just gonna
make sure your heart's beating fast enough.
That doesn't work, right? Like, so they've taken that position with some of these, with a lot of several of the peptides. Do you think it's witchcraft or is this stuff real?
Yeah, what do these do? I'm curious.
What are they supposed to do? I'm not a doctor, so I try to follow.
You play one it.
I play one.
On TV.
I try to follow some physicians, and a lot of what I see has been pretty cold from kind of like the nationally respected physicians who I think really take a peer-reviewed process. But I think there's a lot of others who would say, no, they're great. They do this, this, and this, which is why it's a hot button issue to get out there and start getting these products going because you can make money off them. And so, the internet is fascinating for healthcare. At one time, we're trying to reduce DTC advertising, which at least has balance, but this proliferation of peptides. I mean, you can go on to your Instagram, and if I help the client, I'm going to get all these things saying,
don't
hey,
Google peptides.
Here's a peptide that really have no what I consider like control or on the messaging, right? And so that's very confusing. If you're a patient, you think about an 8th grade education is what you're trying to write for. And you're saying, hey, like this peptide, I just have to take this and I'm going to get X, Y, and Z, and it's not even a drug. That sounds amazing.
Is it too good to be true?
Probably. I mean, most things are, right?
What happens if the needle's dirty, right? You get hepatitis.
Yeah, you could. And whenever I think of something like this, I think of one of the lead PhD in a lab I was in once said, we can cure cancer in mice. We just can't translate to humans, right? Whenever you see these great stories come on the news, it's good. It gets people excited, but there's a reason why there's still all these companies and some of our clients still battling cancer at the very basic element of it, because it's not obviously cured.
Yeah.
And
Right.
there's a big difference when you have to translate things, right? You can see a benefit from a molecular level of, hey, injecting this causes this cascade to start, but you don't know the other effects, the other
Yeah.
cascades in the
Right.
body once
Yeah.
it's in. You can't account for that until you do a well-controlled study, which is what drugs are the result of. And so without that, it's hard to say, so from my regulatory science mind, I would say, well, you can't really say that. You can't say it's going to be some great golden ticket because there's no evidence it is. But at the same time, there's plenty of people out there on the internet who say they are, and there's people trying to access. So then there's people who want to take advantage of it. And like I said, peptides kind of match
Yeah.
some of the HHS policy right now. And so what occurs is more of a enforcement discretion standing on some of this stuff, right? Where there's going to be a meeting from the Pharmacy Compounding Advisory Committee at the end of July. So when we're speaking in July, it's the end of this month, that they're going to be looking at some of these peptides
Were
that are
they
in discussion.
handpicked by RFK, or these
maybe.
are these people?
They're the same ones that have been discussed about all along. So it could be. Yeah.
Are these people on the committee favorable or to peptides or not? I guess has there been, because I'm just showing my ignorance on this topic, that there wasn't some sort of, it's PCAC, is that?
Yeah.
Did they I wonder if they purged that panel and put people in that are going to vote yes on this to try and push. I don't know.
It says the briefing materials propose that every single peptide not be included on the list.
Okay.
And
that's what I thought I had read or heard, was that they were going to
so that's their proposal.
There was not an expectation that this was going to be unfavorable for.
But what I've also been seeing is maybe there's some expectation that it might turn out the other way.
Yeah. I'm sure there's.
And
never know in this
and so that's what tells you where's the pressure coming from.
Yeah. Well, RFK loves these, right?
Yeah.
But we've seen warning letters on them too, right? I mean, which is interesting that
we still have a lot of there's a lot of people at FDA that are clearly not just they're not in lockstep with the
administration. Because there's the political and then there's the day-to-day employee, right? Who, no matter what the administration is, they're going to work and do their job. And there's also a mix and a difference there.
I don't know what the number is today, but I remember the old number was 18,000 employees at FDA and 12,000 were scientists.
Mm-hmm.
I wonder what that correctly. I don't know what it is now after RIFs and such. And
primarily scientists.
Yeah. Yeah, interesting. I won't get into it. I did run into someone at a barbecue over the 4th too, a friend that works at FDA, and he talked about how the RIF was impactful, and now they're hiring back, and it's been obviously disruptive.
Yeah.
But
it's been difficult to hire too, right? Because as we stated, these are well-accomplished scientists who have other opportunities.
Mm-hmm.
Some people who go to work at FDA, they do it more because they care about the public health, and they're trying to put their mark on it, because the salary is not going to be the same from a government standpoint as you could make in industry. No. They get some vacation benefits, certainly.
Yeah.
But, so that's an interesting part too.
I'm just a bit paranoid about these peptides, though. I was on a ski trip with a friend and over the winter, and all of a sudden he's trying to do this to try and get a rise or kind of shock me. But he has this hypodermic needle, and he's just plunges it into his hip and is like, do you want some of this? And I'm just like, I don't know. What are you putting in your body?
I won't put all this needle in, all the liquid in.
Do you know if that, I think heparin, right? That keeps the
anticoagulation.
I'm just do you know where this needle even came from? I'm so worried about,
pharmacies, they still are.
Compounding pharmacies are one thing. Is that where you buy them from?
I think you
I
buy
don't
them.
even know.
A physician could prescribe, and then they could.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember if he got it off the internet, or I think he said he got it from.
Compounding is coming.
Because that could be GLP-1 with that person too.
Yeah, that's true.
Knowing him, I don't know. It was intended to boost his immunity, and he literally got sick on the ski trip. I'm not joking.
Yeah. That
he
equals
got
one.
the
It doesn't
flu.
work.
I was dude, your thing's not working.
Not working for you.
Putting that in your body.
Well, and I think what's interesting too is, enforcement. As we talked about earlier with Whoop, is FDA, they often want to just enforce everything, and they're not very good. And this is burdensome on saying, well, the good actors can continue doing what they're doing. We're going to find the bad actors, because FDA doesn't have the human power to go after the bad actors.
Right.
They don't have it.
If they start to try to do this enforcement light, and all these people come to the market now after this meeting because there's a signal that it might be okay, well, are you going to see a rise in patient harms, or are you going to see a rise in nothing because they're not doing anything, right? Because if they do something, you're expecting to see some good and some bad.
Right.
And so what would the post-market reporting look like? Are people actually going to go ahead and report
No,
adverse
that'd be
events?
my concern. It's like, what do you
'Cause,
even report
yeah,
on?
you know, I took this thing, I don't know what it is. It had
Yeah.
3 numbers and a
Got it
letter
from
in
my
front of
buddy.
it. Yeah.
Yeah, it's
Like,
almost like there's just clinical trials happening
yeah, all over
in real
live.
time, like
Yeah.
without any.
It's real
Or
world
it's like,
evidence.
try this. I don't put this in your body, see what
Yeah,
happens.
it's interesting. I don't know anyone. I mean, at least they haven't admitted to me, besides like GLP-1s, but I haven't heard like friends or acquaintances that have used peptides for like, I don't know, like I keep getting the
Yeah,
tanning one.
yeah.
Apparently I'm pale.
This particular friend, they and the couple, they're willing to look at other types of medicine. She had this health issue for a couple years, and they couldn't figure it out. And they called her the $1 million patient because they did so much testing on her, and they actually did some procedures, surgical, at least one I can think of on her, like trying to basically exploratory,
Right.
like maybe this is it. And they went to a naturopath. The naturopath's like, you have Lyme. You have Lyme
Oh,
disease.
yeah.
And they're like, we're going to test you for Lyme. And they did. And that's what she had.
Yeah.
And they were able to treat it. I think maybe it was a year and a half had gone by, because Lyme can be
You hear that a
really
lot because it's
debilitating.
really hard to diagnose. That
Yes.
could look like many other things.
And they did the lab initially. Yeah, it's hard to diagnose because there's different types of Lyme disease. And this, they did, the initial doctors tested for Lyme, but it was a different variant or something.
Okay. Yeah.
But, you know, I have another friend who I just saw last week. We were mountain biking, and I was really happy to see him mountain bike because I saw him last winter, and he looked like he had aged to be an 80-year-old man since the last time I saw him. This guy's about 55, and it's because his Lyme had gone on. But yeah, he was so sick that it almost killed him.
Oh.
And I think it probably caused permanent joint damage for him. So that's why that couple, I think, is willing to try these different, because they're
for sure,
like, hey, on our
I
view,
get it. I
this
mean,
naturopath basically saved my life.
I
But
totally get it. If I was, I'd try it
Yeah,
too.
try it. I've tried acupuncture on things, right?
Yeah.
Like, and you know, when you are in the healthcare system like ours that has a lot, but it's also very overburdened. You know, this is where AI, like
yes,
clinical decision support tools, why I think they make so much sense, right? If you can really take tons of information, distill to a differential diagnosis of 4 or 5 things, and the doctor at least has time to go through those, you may help a lot of patients who might have taken 2 years.
Yep.
You know, we have clients with products that are aimed at rare diseases, and you know, a lot of their story is it took this person 3 years to get help, when if they had done this 3 years ago, they would have been helped right away, but nobody knew to look. You know, and so that's where also with the digital health, I'll give this administration, you know, and it did start before this administration too, but FDA's overall focus on digital health is saying, hey, you know, there is some efficiency, and not only do we need effectiveness, we need efficiency with our physicians, because they don't have time to sit for 4 hours and every other week with a patient. You know, and insurance companies wouldn't let you anyways. They don't get, it's too much money. It costs them.
That's probably a topic for another day. But the healthcare system is so frustrating. I mean, like, I go to Mayo for this physical. I'm trying to do it every year. I think I've made it twice in 4 or 5 years, but amazing. The Mayo experience is absolutely amazing. I wish everybody in the country would have it. But a critique on the system is like talking to, again, just having be around a lot of young people over the weekend. These are college graduates. One of my son's friends, she's trying to go to nursing school. She can't get into nursing school, and she's a very good student, bright, has done tons of hours working as a provider, but needs the RN, you know. But the issue is there's not enough seats. And I look at this whole healthcare system and just say, like, we're worried about the cost being so high. Why don't we increase the supply of providers, which will naturally drop the price, right? Let's meet the demand with supply, and that will lower the price of care. I really, and
it would also lower the cost of admission for the current medical schools who maybe not like
right.
that.
I think are we trying to inflate prices to keep them high? I don't know, but I was like looking at all this going, this is like an economics problem. We have the people that want to do it. And I know I'm oversimplifying it, but I actually was kind of asking AI, like, who's working on fixing this? And they're
Yeah.
like, well, it's a combination of Congress
Right,
and
and I think that's part of the
societies and
problem is there's
academia. And it's just like,
diffusion of responsibility.
yeah. And they're, this is to me is a great use case for AI, because if you have an anatomy class, I'm not sure you need a professor to teach anatomy. I think you could learn that if you have a picture of the human body and you have to identify all the organs in it,
Right.
that's a
Yeah.
memorization exercise.
Yeah.
I would think that there's efficiencies with AI with some of this classroom teaching.
But I will say my anatomy class, I had a really good professor, and I know a lot of anatomy from that class, even though I
Yes.
had spent years learning
Yeah.
it elsewhere too.
Yeah.
And not even contradict. I'm saying, like, I think this is a challenge of our time. When is AI good, and when do we
Right.
still need human touch, right?
Yeah.
For a clinical decision support tool, AI is great, in my opinion, at finding potential things. This is based on aggregating everyone else's work they've already
Right.
done and saying, hey, these symptoms match up the most with these 5 things. Then you still need someone to go through and knock those off and to monitor and to see how you're
Yeah.
doing and,
Do
all
are,
that.
are physicians afraid to use that? Because what if, like, I think we've had this conversation using AI, like, what if 5 things pop up and the provider goes, well, it's probably not any of those, and then comes back, maybe it
Yeah.
is cancer and that
Yeah.
was on there.
Well, so some of the tools
Curious
are so
how,
soft that
and they should
they
be
can
soft,
ignore them, and it's
but
not really
I could
as
just
big
see
of an
that
issue.
coming up.
It's a great
being
point.
Like,
But if it's cancer,
why didn't you look into it? It said cancer was a possibility 5 years ago or whatever.
And
I don't know.
That's a great point. And I forget the authority, but I had a slide on this in my AI presentation and it talks about how there was this authority. They wanted to have a rule in place that said, if you're a physician using AI, you have to you have to have documentation as to why you're not going to follow it.
Yeah, it's crazy.
And also explain when you do and notify patient. There's all of this.
and reimbursement for their time also on doing that. They might not get reimbursed, so then there might not be as
100%.
often.
And we just did a 50-state survey on state AI law for one of our clients. And it was really interesting. Most of them, all of them, and I can't remember how many, but it's large and growing number that regulate physician AI use. And
very interesting. Okay. So they maybe have some of these rules in place.
But it's state by state right now.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
interesting.
But which is also helpful because most of this will become like a state state law litigation issue.
Malpractice.
Yeah, right. Like, again, going back to that, the tech outpacing the law. And ultimately, sadly, people will have to be hurt or die, and then the law will be.
That's how things change, unfortunately.
And we all teach students in health law and FDA law and whatnot, and that's one thing, a point I always make in the classroom, going through kind of the history of the Food, Drug, and Cosmetic Act. It's like, see, Pure Food and Drug Act, right? We had a issue with people getting sick from foods, and the what's the book that came out of that jungle was really the impetus for the Pure Food Drug Act. And then in 38, you have people killed by drugs, 62 drug amendments, same thing.
Dead bodies.
The dead bodies drive the law, right? And the same with the 76 drug.
You see financial stuff, EPA, environmental stuff, right? You see the harm. You look at the ozone layer and what was done with that with hydrofluorocarbons or whatever, and reduce those, comes back, right? We're kind of we have the science, but it's hard to get people to make a change if someone's not harmed. Otherwise, it's just, well, why would we want to overregulate? So that's kind of an American thing too, right? But that's what EU went through, right? That's why right now they're in a really regulated area that's really burdensome because they made some mistakes, and now they went so far the other way that innovation's being stifled. So they're going to have to find the happy medium as well. So which one? EU?
I'm worried that the AI, like, what will cause an AI law? I don't know. Hopefully it's not.
Illinois just did one that announced yesterday,
it sounds like we already have it.
We do. I
think federally, maybe they're just like not wanting to do it because they don't want to burden commerce.
Well, and you have to think right now, this is not going to go in there, but like Elon Musk, Mark Zuckerberg, all of those people are the people who are interfacing with the highest levels of our government. They're not advocating for federal regulation of AI, and so we're not going to get it from with the current. So I think that's just also who's in power.
I'll send this out. This is our
I
state
mean,
survey.
it's we the
Interesting.
people for the people, right? But this country is driven by commerce and unpopular laws. Until it's not. I mean, there's a lot of people that don't want that, right? Like there's that are having a lot of success politically challenging that where, but that's why AI is there's a global race to be on top of it. And I'm reading this book, Super Intelligence, which is kind of like scary. It's predicted a lot of what's happened. It's really kind of wild to read. I think, but they talk about like whichever country has the best AI will take over the world. The chapters I'm reading right now is about the AI taking over for humans and how we can hopefully prevent that from happening. But it's for sure something that I think the government and our leaders, those corporate leaders, they don't want any red tape. Elon Musk famously said, he was talking about, the only rules that we're going to follow are like the rules of physics. Like they were, launching rockets, and obviously there's a ton of red tape around what you can do, and they're just like, yeah, we're gonna do it how we see fit. And ultimately now he has a massive space company. I think there's something to be said for, like, obviously we advocate and we are experts in the red tape, and that's how we make our livelihood. If there were no rules,
Wow,
there's you can probably do things a lot faster, but things break, people die in our industry.
What else reminds you, with rules, you have to have enforcement. They're not self-executing. Even the Constitution is not automatically self-executing. If you do things and nobody stops you, what?
Right.
We're at a stage where it's really nothing. So I think it's interesting to advise clients when clients think, well, I'm not going to get in trouble. As lawyers, you take an oath that you have to actually advise on the law, not break the law.
Totally.
And so
our client is that company. It's not the CEO of the company. Like talking to this peptide CEO, he was kind of like, he was pissed because we gave him the answer he didn't want, and it's like, I'm looking out for this XTU created, because that's how our society works.
We can't tell you.
No. So I think that's what the comment period is doing, right? Is what we're trying to do is talk about why the general public should care about the FDA, they care about the government because it gets into your health, why the client should listen. Like the state of the government changes your strategy, changes how you're going to look to the future. And, FDA, healthcare providers, you are the ones who are kind of in the midst of what goes through, what doesn't, how you advocate for treatment, and all that comes together to set the market for how people get treated and how people can get money to further ideas, and how something like Whoop can go from a medical device to a wellness product in a pretty short amount of time. And, I think that's what we're aiming to get to the bottom of a little bit in this podcast.
Perfectly said. I hope that was recorded.